Hello, welcome to another Learning Beyond Limits Python lesson. Today we want to talk about a game that we're making. We're going to use user input in this game. So let's go say value, create a variable, and then we're going to assign the user input into that variable. So we're going to go in input, and then let's say for the input, we can say enter, let's say value. Okay, so we could say that. And then if we go down, we can say print value. And if we print the value, we should be able to see what is in our value. Now, if we come over here and we run this, we'll see here it says enter value. And if we enter, let's say 23, and we hit enter, we'll see the value we enter on the new line. Now, let's go ahead and clear this. Because of what we're doing, we want to move this panel, output terminal panel, and see if we can get it to the right. So let's come on over here up the top to our tool, and let's go down to view, and then across to appearance, and then go down to panel position, and then move it to the right. Now we have our workstation here and our output over here. It looks a little bit more space we have. I want to close this as well, our Explorer panel. So if we go to Control and then B, close it, and then what we want to do is let's just print this out to see what's the difference. When we print it out, it comes over here, and if we enter our value 23, we see our value over here. Let's clear that up. So that is all clear, and let's clear this and start our game. But then let's print a new line. Just to start our game on a clear line. So, and then here what we want to do is create a variable, and this variable, let's call it player choice. Let's go down to a new space, let's go player and player choice. And then for player choice, we want to input, and for player choice input, we want to say it's giving me some option. As you can see, the option I want my own custom option, so I'm just gonna ignore that. I'm gonna go enter, and 3 little dot 1 2 3, and then backward slash and new line, put it on a new line, and then I want 1 for rock, comma, and then go to a new line, backward slash 2 for paper, and then let's go to a new line, backward slash, and then 3 for scissors, and then let's bring this to a new line, backward slash. Actually, let's put a colon here first, and then let's go backward slash, 2 new line down. And if you notice up here, we have to scroll to see everything. Why don't we actually see if we can wrap our text? So if we do Control and Z, there it goes, it wraps it up for us. It doesn't enter it. If we enter it, that's going to give us an error. But it actually, if we use Control Z, it wraps up our text for us. Now, we want to have a control flow of our program. So when the user enters something, what's going to happen next and what's going to happen next, or systematic flow. So we're going to use some if statement to help us accomplish that, and we have done some if statement in the past, so we're going to do that again here. So if we go, let's say for example, if 1 is greater than 2, and then we go colon and we enter, we want to do something. 1 is greater than 2, do something. Now this has nothing to do with our code, but it's just to show you that the if statement, if, then we can do something here. But we want to make it make sense to our code. So we're going to say if player choice is less than 1, and then let's use or greater than 3. So these are the numbers that we don't want player choice to be. Player choice must be 1, 2, or 3. It can't be less than 1, and it should not be greater than 3. So if it's less than 1 or greater than 3, we want to print to the user and let them know that you must enter number 1, 2, or 3. This is what we want them to know. Enter 1, 2, or 3. Now, the problem we're going to have here with this is going to print this out, and the program is going to continue. It's not going to stop. But if they enter at a number, let's say 5, we want the program to stop. We want to do this, we want to use the system library. You remember in previous lessons, we had used import before, so we're going to go Now we're going to use import again. So let's import, and this time we're importing a system library. And when we import the system library, let's enter to get some space, import a system library. Now we can get rid of the print, and we can go system, call the system library, and we can say exit and give us this message on exit. And now if we were to print that, we should get our message. But we're gonna have one problem here, because if you recall that this player choice is actually taking in a string. These are all strings here, and our if function is evaluating an integer. So we have to figure out how to convert our string to an integer. So we're going to create another variable. We're going to call it player. And so notice we're coming back to the stuff we learned before. We're going to cast our string to an integer. So now we go player, we cast in our string, player tries to the variable integer. And then when we come here, we're going to also have a problem because player try has an integer in it. So we want to go change this out from player try. So let's go copy player, and then we're going to control D, highlight the first player tries here, and control D to highlight the next one, and then control V to paste player on it. So now it's going to convert player tries to an integer and then evaluate the player as an integer. And now we can move along with our code. So if the user makes their play, we want to be able to compare the user's play with something. So let's make the computer now play. So if the user goes rock, let's see what the computer's option is going to be. To do this, we want the computer to be able to make a random move. So we're going to come up top and we're going to import the random library. So for this random library, once we import that, then we can use the functions in the library. So we're going to go make a variable called computer choice. And then we want computer choice to be equal to random. We want it to be a random value and then random choice. So random choice, and then we're going to put inside our random choice, we're going to put a string 1 2 3. But what random is going to do, random is going to go and randomly select one of those numbers in our string 1 2 or 3, and it's gonna present it as the computer choice. So after we have all this, we're gonna cast this random computer choice into an integer, because as it is right now it's a string. So let's cast it as an integer. So let's go computer, create a variable called computer, and then we're gonna cast our computer choice into computer and make it into an integer. So let's print out what we have so far so that the communication between the user and the computer is transparent. So we go print. We're just going to print a blank line. And then we're going to print you chose. Let's go ahead and concatenate our player choice into our print statement. And let's go concatenate our player choice. Go back. Player choice. So notice we don't need the player choice to be an integer. We need it to be a string. That's why I'm using the player choice and not the player that is an integer. Okay. And then down here, I'm going to print another option, and I'm printing the computer choice as well. And then I'm going to print another blank line down here. And then if I go ahead and save all of that, I will see it shows me down here, enter 1 for rock, 2 for paper, 3 for scissors. And I have my option here, and if I enter 1, or let's say I enter 3 and hit enter, it tells me you chose 3 and the computer chose 2. So I chose scissors, the computer chose paper. So now what I want to be able to figure out who won here. So we see the option, it's not telling us who won, so we need to figure out who won. So I'm just gonna clear this before I go over, and I'm coming over here, I'm gonna change the logic so that I can figure out who won. So let's scroll up so that we have some space to work with. So let's discuss how our if would work, because we can use our if else to figure out who won. So we could say if, let's say player, if player double equal, so if player option is equal to 1, then we could print U1. Now, bear in mind that this is not true for our game. I'm just showing you what our options can be. So if 1 was entered, you could say U1, or else we could print that the computer one. Okay, so again, that doesn't apply for. So we are evaluating the option of 1 if the player puts in 1 and the computer puts in 3. If that is true, who wins? This is a win for me if 1 is a rock and 3 is scissors. So rock beats scissors. Let's go change that. If the player goes for 2 and the computer goes for 1, then again the player would win. Since we have this, let's copy this again and shift alt and down, bring it down again. So note, we can only have one else, one if, but in between we can put as many LF as possible. So that's something to remember. So if we go 3 here and the computer put 2, then the player would win. Notice how I'm actually naming all the possible cases in which the user would win. So if these are all the occasions in which the player wins, anything else the computer wins. So I don't have to name out all the else's. But there's one more option that I haven't mentioned, is what if both of player and the computer has the same options together or choose the same thing. So we're gonna have to account for that. If the player value equal to computer value, and then we're gonna print tie game. So notice we cover all 3 options that would let the player win, and then we cover the tie option, and then anything remaining is gonna be a computer win. So let's save this file and press play to run our code. And then let's say we enter 2 and enter, it says you chose 2 and the computer chose 3, so the computer win. Let's run it again and see if we can win. Let's choose 1 for rock. It says I win. Let's run it again and let's choose 1 for rock and see. It says the computer wins. Okay, so just to make our code a little bit more appealing, we can use some emojis. So let's go use it in our print statement. So because I have Windows, I can go Windows key plus the period, and then we're gonna type in, let's try celebrate, and then I just need this celebration emoji, and I put that in celebrate, and then I can actually copy this emoji and paste it in all my other UN area. Let's see if we can Windows key period, and then let's type in maybe a oh no or a sad face. Okay, so we can use that one. And then for a Python win or a computer win, let's go maybe a snake. Well, let's run what we have with our emojis here first and see what that looks like. Okay, and let's go to, and it's giving me my symbol here. What we see here is that you chose 2, you chose 3. How do I get it to say you chose rock or you chose scissors? Can I do that? So let's improve it a little bit more. So let's go talk about Python's enum. So let's scroll back to the top and let's say form and just say import enum. So you notice how this is a little bit different, how I say from enum, because I want to import some enum library, but I only want this portion of the enum library, just the form enum. So I don't want the entire library. So that's why I'm doing that. Notice how the suggestion shows class. I'm gonna use some class here. So let's go down. I'm gonna enter. I'm gonna go class, and I'm gonna go RPS, and then I'm gonna type in enum as it have there for rock paper scissors, I'm gonna be rock is 1, paper is 2, scissors is 3, with all caps. So as this is the enum that I'm enumerating each of my options, and it will do that for me. Notice the syntax that I have for constant data is in all caps, because this data is not going to change. So I'm not going to be reassigning any of the rock or paper to any different value. So now when I use enum, I can pass in all these numeric value. I'm going to show you this at the top of the program. So let's go print, and then I want to use my enum, so I'm going to go RPS, and I'm going to pass in the value what I would get, and if I I have player, I would put in player. But for now, let's put in number 1. So now if I run this, it shows me RPS, rock paper scissors, is rock. So it does that for me. Let's check the different ways in which we can use our rock paper or RPS. So I'm gonna enter RPS. Actually, I'm gonna enter this 1 time, 2 time, and 3 times here. Let's enter it 1 more time, and actually let's copy this 1 more time and enter it, and then let's change this, because we can go RPS here. Instead we can RPS dot and rock with that, and we can go RPS, and instead of the bracket we can do the square bracket, and we can rock, and then we can go RPS here and dot value, just showing you how we can use RPS. Okay, and actually let's remove this, and right here I wanna go system sys, and that I'm just gonna dot exit, and what this exit is gonna do is just gonna, it's not gonna execute any of the other functions after that exit. Let's save it and run. It gives me an error, so we're just gonna go back. Okay, that's because we need RPS dot rock value. Yeah, that's what we want. And let's try running it again. Then when we run it, we see that the first time we have RPS scissors, that's our first option here, and then we have RPS rock, and then this one we have RPS again, it gives us rock, and then when we check the value of the of rock, it gives us 1, so we know 1 is the value of rock. So that is how we can use enum to help us to get rock, paper, scissors instead of printing out the numbers and then have to translate it back to rock, paper, scissors. So we're going to go ahead and delete these and pass in our value. So now here where we have the player choice, we were getting in the player value. We can now go ahead and change it up, but we're not going to use the player choice anymore. We're going to use the player integer value, because the player is inputting 1, and so we are going to go cast it to a string str, and then we are making sure it's the rock paper RPS value from the player is what we're casting to a string. Okay, and we'll do the same thing down here. We're gonna cast this to a string, and we're gonna put it in the RPS, and we want the computer value. So we'll go ahead and run it. We should see enter your option, and if I enter S3, it tells me your rock paper scissors is scissors, your RPS value is scissors, and your computer the computer choose rock. The only problem I have with this is the RPS dot here. It doesn't look clean for a user experience. As a coder, you understand it, but as a user you don't want to see that. So let's clear this here. So we're gonna use the replace method and replace the RPS. So let's come on up here, and right after we cast it to a string, we want to replace dot replace is the RPS dot, and we want to replace it with an empty string, and so that should work for us. So let's go ahead and let's copy the replace, the dot replace, and let's put it onto this one here, the computer response as well. So if we replace that and let's see if we run it, it should work now. So if we put in an option for true and hit enter, you chose paper and the computer chose rock. So that's pretty awesome. So now you built your first game. You've learned about input. You have learned about the control flow that you use with your if and else. And you have learned about one more variable type, your enum that we use. And so you can go ahead and run with that.